My name is Hannah Morr, and my husband and I live in the south end of Tacoma. We live in a part of Tacoma that is more broken than the rest of Tacoma in a lot of ways. There are a lot of single-parent households trying to raise their kids on their own. We love living where we live. We have led missional communities there for about 6 years, and our mission really has been whoever's in our lives that are single moms and their kids, and how to love them well and care for them well. We have 4 kids that are 10, 8, 5, and 4, and we have always led missional communities that seem to have tons of children. We've learned a lot. We've made a lot of mistakes, and just through a lot of trial and error, we've learned a lot about MC logistics as we've been leading MCs. And so I want to talk about a few of them. First, I want to talk about hosting. I think that often there's temptation for one house to be the hosting house all the time. Maybe it's the biggest or the best. But if possible, it's really great to rotate between houses. If someone has the availability and they can do it and their space is big enough, it is great to host. There's a lot you learn from hosting. A lot of us have not grown up having people in our homes maybe, and so it's such a great hospitality training tool to host an MC in your home. And so we try and rotate if we can. With meals, I think that it's super important to have whoever's in charge of coordinating meals, try and have that be a thing where people are taking turns. So maybe it's potluck style and someone's sending out an email and everyone's saying what they're going to bring. It's great to have someone not do that for a year, maybe do it for a few months at a time and share the load on that. You can do potluck style, which is great. One thing we've done in the past is at one point we had 4 different families who were able to host. They had enough space in their homes. So when it was your turn to host, you would also cook the meal and feed everybody. And so it was kind of a big day and a lot of work. But then the other 3 times that month, you got to just show up and be fed. And so it was really great because a lot of people learned how to feed a large group of people in their home. They'd never done it before, and found that they actually enjoyed doing it, and they felt way more confident in having parties, having people over, just because of doing that for MC. Another thing we've done is at times we've had so many kids and small kids that it felt like all we were trying to do was feed kids and make sure that they didn't come home hungry when it was bedtime. And so we've tried to, at times we've said, we're not going to do meals, eat a light dinner at home, we can take turns bringing a dessert and a savory snack like chips and salsa. And that has been really nice because then you have the freedom just to hang out and be together, and you're not trying to make sure all of the kids eat, and there's not as much of a mess cleaning up. We've also done meals at parks. So I'm just meeting at a park, bring your own dinner. That's been really fun. We normally, if you are an MC that has kids in it, then often like maybe from 6 to 7, we'll eat, hang out together, and then from 7 to 8 or 7 to 8:15, have a time where you have certain content, whatever that is that you're doing, a discussion time where mostly the adults are together, and then someone is also taking care of the kids. We've always had MCs with a lot of kids in them. Maybe that's because we have 4 ourselves, but there's always been quite a lot, and so we've had to be creative in trying to figure out how to care for them well. I think that usually during that second half of your time together where you're going to accomplish something together without all of the kids with you, it is super important to always take turns in your MC. So a lot of moms could use a break. So it's really awesome if husbands and the single people in your group, everyone's equally being good family to each other and taking care of kids. We've done things, sometimes they just get to have free play, or there's a video or board games, or we'll have an activity or a small lesson. I think the key is knowing what you're going to do before all the kids descend upon an area. And kind of have a plan in mind so you don't go crazy and so that they have a really good time. Usually there'd be 2 people. If you have a group of kids, you have 2 people that are helping take care of them, and it's important to see that as quality time for those 2 people. I've had conversations with people and got to know people just because we were there with the children, parenting conversations, whatever it may be. We've also hired like teenage girls. Everyone pays a few bucks, and a teenage girl can make money. Often we pick girls that aren't from believing families, and so it's a good way to connect with them and love them well. And the other thing that we are trying to work through right now is some of our kids are getting bigger. So like you've got 8 to 11-year-olds now instead of 3 to 5-year-olds. And so we're asking, how can we incorporate them into our time as adults? And what does it look like for them to be discipled with everybody else and to be cared for in that way? We've done a lot of different things over the years for our content time, the time that you spend when you're done eating. And I think that sometimes you just decide you're going to hang out the whole time. You're just going to be together, be a good family, do a game night, something like that. Sometimes we just have everyone share where they're at, how they're doing, and how we can pray for each other, especially if they weren't there, if somebody was sick, just trying to really catch up and care for each other well. Because sometimes people come to an MC gathering and they're really struggling, and they don't ever get an opportunity to say it. No one asks them. And so sometimes we are reading scripture or a book and we're discussing it. It's more of a study time. And a lot of those decisions are made totally based on the needs of your group. If you know your people well, then you know where they're at and what they need and where they need to be discipled. Sometimes if someone's in crisis, this has happened to us many times. We've had women who's were going through divorces or affairs and stuff like that. And so you just end up listening to someone cry and all sitting there, men and women, and saying, how can we help you? What can we do this week to help you get through this week? And so sometimes a whole MC might just be about one person, and that's a wonderful thing. It's caring for each other well. It's also great to share stories. So that might take weeks. You could do one or two people each time, and for many weeks you could just be sharing stories and pointing out where God has been good to all the people in your MC and knowing them more. And sometimes we've had to completely change last minute what we were going to do. So say someone brings a friend and you're like, man, what we were going to talk about or do, I don't think it's going to be helpful for that person. So you just have to last minute change what you're going to do. And that's actually happened quite a number of times. Got to be ready to change it up. There have been some different struggles over the years of leading MCs. Probably the two major ones that come to mind are not delegating enough. So sometimes it just feels easier to take care of something myself than to text someone or email someone and have someone else do something. But then all those little extras build up, and it's too much. And then other people don't get to experience the joy of serving each other and being good family. And so really spreading the work around. There's a lot of work involved in families and in being family, and so it needs to get spread out. And so that's a mistake that we have made and I have made for sure. Another thing that can be a struggle is if you, at least in my context, if you are in an MC that has quite a number of children and a lot of people, maybe a lot of adults and a lot of kids, it can feel really chaotic at times. And you can feel like, man, this is crazy. But a lot of real life happens in all those messy places, and that's what real life is like. And so I've been learning to just try to embrace the chaos and know, and I've seen God work so powerfully in situations where I kind of felt like there wasn't a lot going on, and later you hear that, well, this is what happened, this is how God spoke to me through that, and that's how it looked in my week. And so God works powerfully through all that mess, and that brings out a lot of stuff in us that needs to be brought up anyway. So God works because of that. So trying to embrace the chaos, I think, is a struggle, but it's a beautiful thing too. One of the positive things about being part of an MC is that you just get to know people really, really well. You get to know them like holistically in a lot of different ways. And in our church culture and in our culture at large, that doesn't happen very often. And so you get opportunities to learn about each other and disciple each other in ways that are unique to, I think, living life in an MC. You also get the opportunity to care for each other really well. And Jesus talks about how that will be a testimony to the world. And I have been in MCs where I see that happening. We're caring for each other, just trying to help with each other's kids and help with house projects and do whatever you can do. And many times unbelievers will say, man, who took care of that? Or how did you get your kids washed for that? We had 32 hours of foster care training recently that we had to get care for 4 kids for, and our MC and others just jumped in and took care of it all. And people were like, man, that's crazy. Just for free? Yeah, for free. And so I think MC life is an incredible testimony to the world when you're loving each other really well. And it's a privilege to be a part of that, even if it feels kind of crazy at times. One piece of advice I would say is to not, especially with logistics, to not get locked into one way of thinking. You have to keep asking the question, what is going to accomplish our goals best? How are we going to disciple and nurture each other best and reach our community? And often that kind of needs to change, even if families are added or families leave, that even changes. And so really asking your MC to help you, if you're leading one, help you figure that out and not try and make decisions on your own, because You don't always have all the angles, and other people have advice that you often really need.